You're standing in the middle of an endless African savanna. The air is warm, but something feels wrong. Birds that were singing only moments ago have suddenly gone silent. In the distance, a line of orange light begins to appear along the horizon. At first, it looks beautiful. Then the wind changes. The smell reaches you before the danger does. Burning grass, burning trees, burning everything. Within minutes, the peaceful landscape transforms into a roaring wall of flames, taller than any tree you've ever seen. Animals scatter in every direction. Giant elephants run. Antelope leap through the smoke. Predators abandon their hunts and flee alongside their prey. And you run too, because you're not the strongest creature alive. You don't have claws. You don't have sharp teeth. You can't outrun a lion or wrestle a bear. You're just another frightened primate trying to survive. But somewhere in this terrifying moment, one of your ancestors does something no other animal has ever been known to do. Instead of running forever, they stop, they turn around, and they look at the fire. That single decision may have changed the future of every human being who has ever lived. Because if there's one invention that truly separates us from every other species on Earth, it isn't the wheel, it isn't language, it isn't agriculture, it's fire. Without fire, there are no cooked meals. Without fire, there are no cities, no metal tools, no engines, no electricity, no smartphones, no satellites orbiting the Earth. Every piece of modern civilization can trace its roots back to one simple orange flame dancing in the darkness. But here's the mystery. Who was the first human to discover fire? What did that moment actually look like? Did one brilliant individual invent it overnight? Or is the truth far stranger than anything we've imagined? The answer takes us so far into the past that there were no kingdoms, no writing, no pyramids, not even modern humans. To understand the greatest discovery in history, we first have to travel back nearly 2 million years, to a world that would feel completely alien to us. The Earth looked familiar, but life was unimaginably different. There were no villages, no roads, no farms. Every sunrise was a new battle for survival. Early humans woke up with the same thought every morning. How do I stay alive until tomorrow? Food was never guaranteed. A successful hunt could feed a group for days. A failed hunt meant hunger. As the sun disappeared below the horizon, the world became even more dangerous. Darkness belonged to the predators. Lions with eyes adapted to the night. Hyenas capable of crushing bone. Leopards that could silently climb trees before striking without warning. For our ancestors, night wasn't peaceful. Night was terrifying. They had no flashlights, no walls, no locks, no weapons strong enough to stop every predator. All they could do was huddle together and hope morning arrived before something hungry did. Humans today are often afraid of the dark. Children sleep with nightlights. Adults feel uneasy walking through empty streets after sunset. Most of us blame imagination. But what if that fear is much older? What if it's an echo? A survival instinct passed down through hundreds of thousands of generations. From ancestors who knew that darkness wasn't empty. It was alive. And then, nature itself revealed a power unlike anything they had ever witnessed. Lightning struck. A deafening crack split the sky. An ancient tree exploded into flames. Within minutes, the surrounding grass ignited. The fire spread with terrifying speed, swallowing everything in its path. Animals fled. The forest screamed. Smoke climbed high into the sky. Every creature treated the fire exactly the same way, as something to escape. Every creature, except one, because somewhere, hidden behind the fear, human curiosity was beginning to awaken, and curiosity has always been far more powerful than fear. That curiosity would eventually lead our ancestors closer to the flames, close enough to notice something that no other animal seemed to understand. The fire wasn't just destroying the world around them, it was changing it. And that realization would become the first step toward the greatest revolution in human history. Days passed. The wildfire that had once raced across the landscape with unstoppable fury was now little more than a patchwork of glowing embers. The towering flames were gone. The terrifying roar had faded. All that remained was warm earth, blackened trees, and thin streams of smoke drifting lazily into the sky. Most animals still avoided the area. To them, the smell of ash meant danger. But for our ancestors, something unexpected happened. The burned landscape was strangely different. Animals that had escaped the fire slowly began returning. Fresh green shoots pushed through the black soil faster than anyone could have imagined. The fire had destroyed the old forest, but it had also created new life, and scattered across the ground were the bodies of animals that hadn't escaped in time. Some had been burned, others had simply suffocated in the smoke. At first, the humans approached cautiously. Every instinct told them to stay away. The ground was still warm beneath their feet. Tree trunks hissed as hidden pockets of heat escaped into the cool morning air. Then someone noticed something unusual: the smell. It wasn't the bitter scent of smoke that caught their attention. It was something else, something rich, something strangely inviting. A piece of meat had been cooked by the fire. No one had planned it. Nature had done the cooking. For millions of years, our ancestors had eaten almost everything raw. Raw meat was tough. It took enormous effort to chew. It carried dangerous bacteria and parasites. Digesting it required huge amounts of energy. But this meat, it was different. It was softer, warmer, easier to tear apart. One cautious bite became another, then another, and something remarkable happened. It wasn't just easier to eat, it was easier to digest. Without realizing it, those early humans had stumbled onto one of evolution's greatest shortcuts. Modern scientists now believe that cooking food dramatically increased the amount of energy humans could extract from every meal. Instead of spending hours chewing and digesting tough raw food, the body could absorb calories more efficiently. That extra energy had to go somewhere. Over hundreds of thousands of years, much of it went into building something incredibly expensive: the human brain. Today, your brain makes up only about 2% of your body weight, yet it consumes roughly 20% of all the energy your body produces. It's an unbelievably costly organ to maintain. Without calorie-rich cooked food, a brain like ours may never have evolved. In a very real sense, every thought you've ever had, every language ever spoken, every invention ever created, may owe its existence to a meal that was accidentally cooked by a wildfire. But there was still one enormous problem. Wildfires were unpredictable. They appeared without warning and disappeared just as quickly. You couldn't depend on lightning if your family was freezing. You couldn't wait months for another forest to burn just because you wanted cooked food. Fire was powerful. Fire was life-changing, but it wasn't useful until humans learned a completely different skill. Not how to create fire, but how to keep it alive. This is where one of the biggest misconceptions in history begins. Most people imagine that someone invented fire by rubbing two sticks together. In reality, the first great achievement wasn't making fire, it was protecting it. Imagine discovering the only source of warmth for hundreds of kilometers. Would you let it burn out? Of course not. Instead, you would guard it day and night, feed it dry branches, carry glowing embers wherever your group traveled. Treat it like the most valuable possession on Earth. And that's exactly what many archaeologists believe happened. Long before humans understood how to ignite a new flame, they became experts at preserving old ones. A single burning branch taken from a natural wildfire could remain alive for days, even weeks, if it was carefully fed and protected. For an early human tribe, losing the fire wasn't a minor inconvenience, it was a catastrophe. Without it, cold nights returned. Predators came closer, cooked food disappeared, darkness reclaimed the camp. The flame became more than a tool, it became the center of life itself. Every evening, families gathered around it. Children watched its dancing light. Hunters shared stories of the day's journey. Knowledge passed from one generation to the next, not written in books, but spoken beside glowing embers. In many ways, the first classroom in human history wasn't a school, it was a campfire. And hidden inside those quiet nights was another transformation that almost no one saw coming. The fire wasn't only changing what humans ate, it was beginning to change how humans thought. And millions of tiny moments around those flickering flames were quietly shaping the species we would one day become. Night after night, generation after generation, those flames became more than a source of warmth. They became a place where memories were shared, where children learned simply by watching, where hunters replayed the day's successes and failures, where elders passed down knowledge that had never been written, but somehow survived for thousands of years. For the first time in history, the day didn't end when the sun disappeared. Fire gave humans something no other animal truly possessed. Extra time. Think about that for a moment. Every other creature on Earth lived according to the rhythm of daylight. When darkness arrived, activity stopped. Predators hunted, prey hid. But humans created their own daylight. That single achievement quietly changed the rhythm of evolution itself. Around the fire, people talked longer, observed more, remembered better. Some anthropologists even believe that language itself may have become more sophisticated because of these evenings around the campfire. It's an intriguing idea. No one can prove it with certainty, but imagine trying to explain how to hunt a dangerous animal while running for your life during the day. Now imagine explaining the exact same lesson while sitting safely beside a warm fire with your family listening. One environment rewards speed, the other rewards conversation, stories, questions, and curiosity. Whether language was born around the fire or simply strengthened by it, there's little doubt that fire transformed the way humans communicated. But communication wasn't the only thing changing. The flames themselves were teaching lessons. Children watched dry branches ignite faster than fresh wood. They noticed that some trees burned hotter than others. They learned that wind could make a small flame suddenly explode into a roaring blaze. Without realizing it, they were becoming the world's first fire experts. Not through books, not through schools, but through thousands of tiny observations repeated over countless generations. Knowledge accumulated slowly, one discovery at a time, one mistake at a time, sometimes one tragedy at a time. Because fire was never completely safe. A neglected campfire could spread through dry grass in minutes. A burning branch could destroy an entire campsite. A child who wandered too close could suffer terrible burns. Early humans respected fire for the same reason they feared it. It could save your life, or take it away. Even today, firefighters often describe fire as something that behaves almost like a living creature. It breathes, it spreads, it changes direction without warning. Our ancestors understood this long before they understood chemistry. They didn't know about oxygen. They had never heard the word combustion, yet through observation alone, they learned the rules. Feed it, protect it, never turn your back on it. That practical wisdom became part of human culture. And then, one day, someone asked a question that may have been even more important than any question before it. Not, how do we keep the fire alive? But, what if we could make a new one whenever we wanted? That idea sounds obvious to us. To them, it was revolutionary, because until that moment, every flame on Earth came from nature. Lightning, volcanoes, wildfires. Humans could preserve fire, but creating it from nothing, that seemed almost impossible. Still, curiosity has always been humanity's greatest weapon. Somebody noticed that striking certain stones together produced tiny flashes of light. Others realized that rubbing dry sticks together created heat. At first, those discoveries probably meant nothing. A few sparks, a little warmth, nothing more. But unlike every other animal, humans didn't stop experimenting after the first failure. They tried again, and again, and again. Hundreds of failed attempts became thousands. Thousands became generations. Every small success was remembered. Every failure became another lesson. No one knows the name of the person who finally saw a tiny glowing ember appear in a bundle of dry grass. No one knows what they looked like or what language they spoke. But in that unforgettable moment, humanity crossed an invisible line. For the first time, fire no longer belonged only to nature. It belonged to us. And with that single glowing ember, the future of the human race changed forever.